Kang Ji-wook crashed to the bedroom floor again. Another woman had pushed him off roughly, unable to handle his size. "I'm so sorry. I just can't." She apologized, tears streaming down her face, scrambling off the bed like he'd hurt her. He just stared at her, saying nothing. He was done. This was the 10th woman in a month. 10. The first one had run the moment he undressed, her eyes going wide with terror before she grabbed her clothes and fled without a word. The second had tried. She really tried. But 3 minutes in, she'd started crying. Not from pain, from fear. She'd pushed him away so hard he'd nearly hit his head on the nightstand. The 3rd through 8th followed the same pattern. Some made it further than others. Some didn't even make it to the bed. One had actually laughed, a nervous, panicked laugh, before apologizing profusely and leaving. The 9th had been angry, accused him of being a freak, and stormed out, slamming the door so hard it hurt. And now this one, number 10, was gathering her clothes with shaking hands, still apologizing between sobs. "It's not you. It's me. You're just... I'm so sorry." He didn't even bother responding anymore. What was the point? As she hurried out, his phone rang. His bodyguard's voice came through. "Boss, I found you a new PA. She's different. Street girl. No fear." Ji-wook sighed, still lying on the floor where the woman had shoved him. He needed an assistant he could trust with secrets that could kill him. Not another woman who'd run from him. "Fine, send her tomorrow," he said, his voice hollow. He hung up and stared at the ceiling. 10 women in 30 days. 10 rejections. He was the most powerful man in Seoul. Feared, respected, untouchable. But in his bedroom, he was just a man who couldn't find someone who could handle him. He'd accepted it by now. This was his life. Powerful in every way except the one that mattered. But what happens when the one woman who doesn't fear anything walks into his world and turns everything upside down? The next morning, Ji-wook sat in his office waiting. His previous personal assistant had just gotten married and resigned because his wife wasn't safe in this world. The position required someone who could handle classified information, travel at a moment's notice, and most importantly, keep their mouth shut. One leaked secret and he'd be dead within hours. The door opened without a knock. A girl walked in wearing ripped jeans, a faded polo shirt, and sneakers that had seen better days. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she carried a backpack that looked like it had survived a war. She didn't bow, didn't smile nervously like most people did when they entered his office. She just looked at him. "You Kang Ji-wook?" His right-hand man, Song Min-ho, who stood by the door, tensed. Nobody spoke to the boss like that. Ji-wook studied her. "And you are?" "Isabella, your new PA. Min-ho's girlfriend said you needed someone who wouldn't piss their pants when things get messy." She dropped into the chair across from him without being invited to sit. "So here I am." Ji-wook's eyes narrowed. This girl had no idea who she was talking to. "You're hired based on a recommendation. That doesn't mean you get the job." "Cool. What do I need to do to prove myself?" She pulled out her phone and started scrolling like she was bored. "Put the phone away." Ji-wook's voice dropped to that tone that made grown men sweat. Isabella looked up, met his eyes without flinching, and slowly put the phone in her pocket. "Better." Min-ho coughed to hide a laugh. Ji-wook leaned back in his chair. Most people couldn't hold his gaze for more than 3 seconds. This girl was going on 30 and counting. The job pays well, very well, but it comes with risks. People will try to kill you to get to me. They'll offer you money to betray me. They'll threaten your family. "Don't have family to threaten," Isabella said flatly, "and I've been on the streets for years. People have tried worse than killing me. Didn't work out for them. The contract has specific requirements." Ji-wook continued, sliding a document across the desk. "Read it carefully." Isabella picked it up and scanned through it. Her eyebrows went up slightly as she read, but she didn't look shocked, just interested. The contract outlined her duties: manage his schedule, handle confidential documents, accompany him to all business meetings and social events, and when necessary, pose as his fiancée to maintain certain appearances in public. The pay was outrageous, the travel was constant, the danger was real. "So basically, I'm your work wife without the benefits," she said, looking up. Ji-wook almost smiled. "Almost. You'll have benefits, full medical coverage, housing if you need it, and access to security resources, but yes, in public, you'll need to be convincing as someone who cares about me." "Act like I'm in love with you?" Isabella tilted her head. "That's the weird part for you? Not the part where people might shoot at me? Can you do it or not?" She shrugged. "I can act. Street Survival 1. You learn to be whoever you need to be. When do I start? Tonight. I have a dinner meeting with potential business partners. They don't respect men who show up alone. You'll accompany me as my fiancé. Isabella stood up. What time? 7. Minho will take you shopping for appropriate attire. I don't do heels and dresses, she said immediately. Tonight you do. They stared at each other. A battle of wills happening in complete silence. Finally, Isabella sighed dramatically. Fine. But if I fall and break my neck, I'm suing you from the afterlife. Deal. 3 hours later, Isabella stood in a designer boutique looking like she wanted to commit murder. Minho had dragged her through 5 stores and she'd rejected everything. Too tight, too exposed, too uncomfortable. This is torture, she muttered, holding up a red dress that probably cost more than her entire year of living on the streets. Boss said you need to look the part, Minho replied, checking his watch. We're running out of time. I look like the part of someone who's about to rob this store. Minho's girlfriend, Yumi, appeared with another dress. Try this one. It's elegant but not too revealing, and the fabric has stretch so you can move if you need to. Isabella took it reluctantly and disappeared into the fitting room. When she emerged, even Minho had to admit she cleaned up well. The black dress hugged her frame without being inappropriate, and somehow she still looked like she could throw a punch if necessary. Shoes? Yumi said, holding up a pair of modest heels. Absolutely not, Isabella said. No, I'll wear the dress. I'll play nice, but I'm not breaking my ankles for some business dinner. He can deal with it or fire me. Before Minho could argue, a familiar voice cut through the store. Well, what do we have here? A woman in an expensive designer outfit approached, her eyes scanning Isabella with obvious disdain. She was beautiful in that polished, high-maintenance way, and she carried herself like she owned the world. Can I help you? Isabella asked, not moving. You must be new. The woman said with a fake smile. I'm Haiwan. Jiwook's girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend. Minho corrected quietly. Haiwan shot him a look before turning back to Isabella. Is that what he's telling people now? Sweetie, we had dinner last week. We're just taking a break. Isabella looked her up and down. Cool. I'm his PA, not his therapist. So if you're having relationship issues, maybe take it up with him. Haiwan's smile disappeared. PA. Is that what he's calling his charity cases now? She stepped closer. Let me give you some advice, street rat. Whatever game you think you're playing, you're out of your league. Jiwook needs a woman of class, of breeding, of... The slap came so fast Minho almost didn't see it, but he definitely heard it. The sound echoed through the boutique as Haiwan stumbled backward, her hand flying to her reddening cheek. Before she could recover, Isabella grabbed her by the designer blouse, lifted her like she weighed nothing, and carried her straight out of the store. The trash bins were right outside. Isabella dumped Haiwan into the nearest one, ignoring the screaming and cursing. Then she pulled out her phone, snapped a picture of Haiwan struggling among the garbage bags, and walked back inside like nothing happened. I forgot the dress, Isabella said calmly to the horrified sales associate. Can you ring this up? Minho's phone was already blowing up. People were posting the video. Someone had recorded the whole thing. Within minutes, it was trending. His phone rang. The boss. We have a situation, Minho said immediately. I saw. Jiwook's voice was unreadable. Where is she? Buying the dress. Good. Remind her the dinner is in 2 hours. And tell her well done. Minho blinked. Boss? Haiwan has been a problem for months. Your new PA just solved it permanently. The line went dead. Isabella came out of the store with a bag, still refusing the heels. So, are we done here or do I need to throw anyone else in the trash today? Yumi was staring at her like she'd just witnessed a superhero origin story. Minho just shook his head. Boss says well done. Of course he does, Isabella said, checking the time. Now, can someone feed me? I haven't eaten since yesterday, and if I have to smile at rich people tonight, I need carbs. As they left, Minho texted Jiwook. She's either going to be your best hire or your biggest problem. The response came back immediately. Maybe both. If you're loving Isabella's bold energy and want to see how this dinner goes down, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what you think happens next. Should Jiwook be impressed or terrified? And if this story is speaking to you, subscribe and share it with someone who loves a fearless heroine. Your support helps this community grow and brings more stories like this to life. Now let's see what happens when these two clash at the dinner table tonight. Ji-wook adjusted his cufflinks for the third time, which was unusual. He never showed nerves, but tonight felt different. He'd seen the video. The entire city had seen the video. His new PA had gone viral for dumping his ex-girlfriend into a trash bin, and somehow his business reputation had actually improved. People were calling him ruthless for hiring someone so bold. They respected it. The penthouse door opened. Isabella walked in and Ji-wook forgot what he was about to say. She'd kept the dress but paired it with combat boots. Her hair was still in that messy bun. She wore minimal makeup, and somehow she looked more dangerous than any woman he'd ever seen in diamonds and designer heels. Before you say anything about the boots, she started. I can't run in heels and I don't trust these business people you're meeting, so if someone pulls a gun, at least one of us can move. Ji-wook stared at her. You think someone will pull a gun at a restaurant dinner? I think you're a mafia boss meeting with people who want something from you, so yeah, I'm prepared. She noticed his expression. What? Nothing. He grabbed his jacket. Let's go. In the car, Isabella read through the files on the people they were meeting. She absorbed information like a sponge, asking sharp questions about their backgrounds, their business dealings, their weaknesses. You prepared for this? Ji-wook observed. You're paying me to not be stupid, she replied without looking up. These men are dangerous. This deal could go sideways fast, and according to this file, the older one, Chen, has a temper. So, I'm guessing you need me to play distraction if things get tense. Ji-wook's respect for her went up another notch. Yes. Cool. How affectionate are we talking? Hand-holding, casual touches, full-on PDA. Whatever feels natural. Nothing about this feels natural, but okay. She finally looked at him. Just don't flinch when I touch you. It'll blow the whole thing. I won't flinch. Famous last words. The restaurant was exclusive, the kind of place where you needed connections just to get a reservation. They were led to a private room where 3 men already sat waiting. Chen, the older one with silver hair and cold eyes, his son Wei, who looked bored, and their business associate Tanaka, a Japanese businessman with a reputation for being calculating. All 3 men stood when Isabella entered. Gentlemen, Ji-wook said smoothly, his hand finding the small of Isabella's back. This is my fiancée, Isabella. She smiled, and it looked so genuine that even Ji-wook almost believed it. It's wonderful to meet you all. Ji-wook has told me so much about this partnership. They sat and the dinner began. The first 20 minutes were normal business talk, market discussions, logistics. Isabella played her part perfectly, interested but not intrusive, asking intelligent questions that made the men see her as more than just decoration. Then Chen made a comment about Ji-wook being too young to handle the Korean operations. Isabella's hand slid across the table and rested on Ji-wook's arm. You know what I love about Ji-wook, she said, her voice warm. He doesn't need to prove himself with words. His results speak for themselves. She squeezed his arm gently and Ji-wook felt something unexpected. Arousal. Right there at the dinner table. He kept his face neutral, but Isabella must have noticed something because her eyes flickered to his for just a second, and there was a hint of amusement there. She was doing this on purpose. The conversation continued, but now Isabella was fully committed to her role. She touched his shoulder when she laughed, leaned into him when she whispered something in his ear that made the other men think they were sharing intimate secrets. At one point, she reached up and gently brushed an imaginary piece of lint off his collar, her fingers lingering just a moment too long. Ji-wook was trying very hard to focus on business, but his body was betraying him. When she casually pressed a kiss to his cheek while the men were distracted with their drinks, he nearly lost it. You're overdoing it, he murmured when she leaned close. The contract says make it believable, she whispered back. I'm just being thorough. By the end of dinner, the deal was signed. The men left impressed, commenting on what a lovely couple they made, and how lucky Ji-wook was to find a woman who clearly adored him. The moment they were alone in the car, Isabella dropped the act. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling like nothing had happened. Ji-wook stared at her. What was that? What was what? The touching, the kiss, the acting. That's what you paid me for. Was I not supposed to be convincing? You were very convincing. Good. She finally glanced at him, and there was that amused look again. Did I make you uncomfortable, boss? Yes, but not in the way she probably thought. Just tone it down next time. Sure thing. She went back to her phone completely unbothered. Ji-wook adjusted his position in the seat, grateful for the darkness hiding his current situation. This girl was going to be a problem, a very attractive, very dangerous problem. When they arrived back at the penthouse bar, Isabella headed straight for the guest room he'd set up for her. I'm exhausted. See you tomorrow, boss. Isabella. She turned. You did well tonight. She gave him a genuine smile this time, not the fake one from dinner. Thanks. Your business friends are creepy, by the way. Especially Chen. He kept looking at me like I was dessert. I noticed. Did you also notice I slipped his phone out of his pocket when I hugged him goodbye? Ji-wook's eyes widened slightly. You did what? She tossed him an expensive smartphone. Cloned it while you were signing papers, figured you might want to know what he's really planning. The guy's shady. She yawned. Anyway, I'm going to bed. Night. She disappeared into her room, leaving Ji-wook standing there holding Chen's phone, completely stunned. Minho emerged from the shadows where he'd been standing guard. Boss, I know. She just pickpocketed a Chinese mafia leader during a business dinner. I know. And you're not firing her? Ji-wook looked at the phone, then at the closed door where Isabella had disappeared. No, I'm giving her a raise. Minho shook his head. You're either a genius or insane. We'll find out which. Drop a comment if you think Isabella just became Ji-wook's favorite person or his worst nightmare, and hit that subscribe button because this story is about to get wild. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens when these two clash next. The next 2 weeks were chaos. Isabella threw herself into the job with an intensity that both impressed and terrified Ji-wook's entire organization. She reorganized his schedule, fired 2 people she caught leaking information, and somehow convinced a rival gang to back off a territory dispute by showing up to their headquarters alone and having a conversation. Nobody knew what she said. The rivals wouldn't talk about it, but they backed off. She also had zero concept of personal boundaries. Ji-wook would be in the shower and she'd walk into the bathroom with documents that needed signing. It's urgent, she'd say, completely unbothered by his nakedness. He'd wake up at 3 in the morning to find her standing at the foot of his bed in the dark. You forgot to approve the Tokyo shipment, she'd say calmly while he had a minor heart attack. How did you get in here? Door was unlocked. No, it wasn't. I locked it. She'd just shrug and hand him the tablet. His men started calling her the ghost because she appeared and disappeared without sound. One of his bodyguards quit because she'd somehow gotten behind him 3 times in one day without him noticing, and he was trained by the Korean military. But the most disturbing part, she fit into his world too perfectly. When a meeting turned violent and guns were drawn, she didn't scream or hide. She'd calmly moved behind Ji-wook, assessed the exits, and picked up a chair like she was ready to throw it at someone's head. When one of his enemies sent a message by leaving a dead rat on his car, she'd picked it up with her bare hands, examined it, and said, "Amateur hour. This is a pet store rat, not a street rat. They're not even trying." And during a tense negotiation where the other party tried to intimidate them, she'd yawned. Actually yawned. The man had pulled a knife and she'd looked bored. Are you insane? Ji-wook had asked her later. Nope, just not scared of edgelords with knives. I've seen worse on the streets. He could have killed you, but he didn't. She'd gone back to typing on her laptop like they were discussing the weather. Ji-wook was starting to realize something unsettling. This girl wasn't just fearless. She was dangerous in a way that felt familiar, like she'd been trained for this, like she belonged in this world. Where exactly did you grow up? He asked one night when they were alone in his office. Isabella looked up from her work. The streets. I told you that. Which streets? Does it matter? Yes. She studied him for a long moment. Why the sudden interest in my tragic backstory? Boss? Because you don't move like someone who just survived the streets. You move like someone who was trained. Combat trained. Her expression didn't change. Maybe I'm just a fast learner. Or maybe you're hiding something. Everyone's hiding something, she said evenly. Even you. They stared at each other, the tension in the room shifting into something else, something heavier. Ji-wook stood and walked around his desk, closing the distance between them. I don't like mysteries in my organization. Then fire me. I don't want to fire you. Then stop interrogating me. She didn't back down, didn't look away. Most people would have crumbled under his gaze by now, but she just sat there, chin up, eyes defiant. You're infuriating, he said quietly. You're welcome. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. Get out of my office before I do something we'll both regret. Like what? It was a challenge. She knew exactly what she was doing. Ji-wook leaned closer, his voice dropping. Like finding out if you're as fearless about everything as you pretend to be. For the first time since he'd met her, Isabella's breath hitched, just slightly, just enough for him to notice. "Good night, boss," she said, grabbing her laptop and heading for the door. "Isabella." She paused but didn't turn around. "One of these days, you're going to push too far." Looking forward to it. She left, and Jiwook stood there trying to remember the last time a woman had affected him like this. The answer was never. No woman had ever challenged him, matched him, frustrated him, and aroused him all at once. This was a problem. A very serious problem. The breaking point came 2 months into her employment. They just returned from another business dinner where Isabella had once again played the perfect fiancée. This time she'd gone even further, feeding him dessert, running her fingers through his hair, whispering in his ear in a way that made every man at the table jealous. Jiwook had spent the entire evening uncomfortably aroused and trying to hide it. When they got back to the penthouse, he headed straight for his bathroom, needing a cold shower and some distance from her. He'd just stepped into the shower when he heard the door open. "Isabella, I swear to God, you left your phone on the counter," she said, completely unfazed by the fact that he was naked behind a glass shower door. "Your mother called twice. Sounds important." She held up his phone, not even trying to look away. Something in Jiwook snapped. He turned off the water, grabbed a towel, and stepped out. Isabella's eyes widened slightly as he approached, water still dripping from his body, but she didn't back away. "You need to learn about boundaries," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "You need to learn to lock your door," she shot back. He took the phone from her hand and tossed it onto the counter. "Why do you do this?" "Do what?" "Push, challenge, provoke. I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." They were inches apart now. He could see her pulse racing in her neck, could see the way her breathing had changed. She wasn't as unaffected as she pretended to be. "You're playing a dangerous game," he said quietly. "Maybe I like danger. Maybe you don't know what you're asking for. Maybe you don't know what I can handle." That did it. Jiwook grabbed her face and kissed her, hard, demanding, expecting her to push him away, to slap him, to remind him she was just an employee. Instead, she kissed him back, her hands fisting in the towel at his waist, pulling him closer. The kiss turned desperate, years of his frustration and her defiance colliding into something explosive. He backed her against the bathroom wall, his hands everywhere, trying to memorize the feeling of someone who didn't run from him, someone who matched his intensity instead of fearing it. "Tell me to stop," he breathed against her neck. "No. Isabella." "I said no." She pulled his face back to hers. "For once in your life, stop overthinking, and just—" She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Clothes started coming off. His towel hit the floor. Her shirt followed. This was reckless, insane, completely inappropriate, and neither of them cared. When they finally came together, Jiwook braced himself for the moment she'd push him away, for the moment she'd realize he was too much, too big, too intense. But it never came. Instead, Isabella wrapped herself around him and took everything he gave her without hesitation, without fear, without running. For the first time in his life, Jiwook didn't have to hold back, and it was perfect. Afterward, they lay tangled together on his bathroom floor, both trying to catch their breath. Jiwook waited for the awkwardness, for the regret, for her to say this was a mistake. Instead, Isabella sat up, grabbed her scattered clothes, and started getting dressed. "Where are you going?" he asked. "To bed. I have work in the morning." "That's it? That's all you're going to say?" She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "What do you want me to say?" "I don't know. Something. It happened. It's done. We move on." "Move on?" He sat up, pulling the towel back around his waist. "Isabella, we just had sex." "Yes, I was there." She finished buttoning her shirt. "Look, boss, I don't do the whole feelings thing. Love, attachment, whatever. It's a weakness, a distraction. This was physical, stress relief. Don't make it more complicated than it is." Jiwook stared at her, realizing with dawning horror that for the first time in his life, he was the one who wanted more and she was the one walking away. "You felt nothing?" he asked quietly. She paused at the door. For a moment her mask slipped and he saw something flicker in her eyes, something real, but then it was gone. "Good night, boss." She left, and Jiwook sat there on the cold bathroom floor, feeling more confused than he'd been in years. He'd finally found a woman who could handle him physically, but emotionally she was completely untouchable, and somehow that made him want her even more. Okay, I need to know. Are you Team Jiwook catching feelings or Team Isabella keeping it cold? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The next morning, Jiwook woke up expecting awkwardness, maybe regret. Definitely some kind of emotional conversation. What he got was Isabella walking into his office at 9 sharp, wearing a fitted blazer and sleek black pants that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Carrying 2 cups of coffee like she hadn't just rocked his entire world 12 hours ago. Morning, boss, she said cheerfully, setting his coffee down. You have the Tokyo meeting at 10, lunch with the minister at 1, and I scheduled your car maintenance for 3 because you've been ignoring that check engine light for 2 weeks. Jiwook stared at her. That's it? That's what? That's all you're going to say about last night? She looked at him with those big innocent eyes. What about last night? Oh, you mean when I reorganized your filing system? Yeah, it was a mess. You're welcome. Isabella, also, I'm thinking we should update your wardrobe for the Singapore trip. You can't keep wearing the same 3 suits to international meetings. People are starting to notice. She scrolled through her tablet. I already made an appointment with your tailor for Thursday. He stood up and rounded the desk. Are we really not going to talk about this? Talk about what? But there was a tiny smile playing at her lips. She was messing with him. You know exactly what, do I? She tilted her head, all fake innocence. I'm just your PA boss. I make your coffee, manage your schedule, occasionally dump your exes in trash bins, and sleep with me. Which was a one-time thing, stress relief. You know, like a really intense yoga session. Jiwook couldn't help it. He laughed. Did you just compare sex with me to yoga? Well, there was a lot of stretching involved. Isabella, she grinned, finally dropping the act. You're cute when you're flustered. I'm not flustered. You're extremely flustered. Your left eye is twitching. He touched his eye. It was not twitching. I don't have a twitch. Now you're checking, which means you believe me, which means you're definitely flustered. She picked up her tablet. I'll go prep the conference room. Try to compose yourself before the Tokyo people arrive. They respect stoic businessmen, not blushing messes. I am not blushing, but she was already out the door and he could hear her laughing in the hallway. Minho poked his head in. Did she just... Don't, Jiwook warned. She's messing with you. I know. And you're letting her. I know that too. Minho grinned. You're so whipped. Get out of my office. The problem was Isabella wasn't just messing with him for fun. She was genuinely treating their night together like it meant nothing, and it was driving Jiwook absolutely insane. She showed up to work every day looking effortlessly gorgeous. Gone were the ripped jeans and faded polos. Now she wore tailored pants, elegant blouses, designer heels that made her legs look incredible. She'd clearly been spending her generous salary on a wardrobe upgrade, and Jiwook was suffering for it because she looked amazing and he couldn't touch her. Well, he could, technically. She was his employee and they'd already crossed that line. But every time he tried to bring up what happened, she deflected with humor or changed the subject entirely. Isabella, about that night. Did you know that octopuses have 3 hearts? Wild, right? That's not... Why do you even know that? I watch a lot of documentaries when I can't sleep. Anyway, your 2 o'clock is here. We should discuss... Oh, I forgot to tell you, I fired your accountant. You what? He was skimming. Found the discrepancies last night. Already reported him. You're welcome. How did you... Never mind. Isabella, we need to talk about us. There is no us. There's you, me, and a really good employer-employee dynamic. Don't ruin it with feelings, boss. It was maddening. Worse, she was still playing the perfect fiancé at public events, touching his arm, laughing at his jokes, looking at him like he hung the moon. But the moment they were alone, she went back to being professionally distant. Jiwook was starting to understand what torture really meant. The opportunity came 2 days later. Jiwook came home early from a meeting to find the penthouse empty. Isabella's door was closed, and he could hear the shower running in her bathroom. He should have walked away. Should have given her privacy. Instead, he made a decision. He walked to her bathroom door and opened it. Steam filled the room. Through the frosted glass of the shower, he could see her silhouette. Isabella. The water shut off immediately. What the hell, Jiwook? I'm in the shower. I know. Then get out. No. There was a pause. Then she yanked open the shower door, wrapped in a towel, her hair dripping wet, her eyes blazing with anger. Are you insane? You can't just walk into someone's bathroom while they're... He kissed her hard. desperate, pouring every bit of frustration and longing and need into it. She pushed at his chest at first, making angry noises, but then her resistance crumbled and she was kissing him back with equal intensity. "This is a terrible idea," she gasped when they broke apart. "I don't care. We can't keep doing this. Watch me." He kissed her again, backing her against the wall. Her towel fell to the floor. His hands were everywhere, relearning the feel of her, the taste of her. "Jiwook, tell me to stop and I will." She looked at him, her eyes dark with desire and something else, something that looked like surrender. "Don't stop." That was all he needed to hear. They barely made it to her bed. Clothes disappeared, hands explored, and when they came together, it was different from the first time. Slower, deeper, more meaningful. This time, Jiwook didn't hold back his emotions, didn't try to play it cool. He let her see everything, the vulnerability, the need, the love. And Isabella, for once, didn't run from it. Afterward, they lay tangled together, both breathing hard. "That was," Isabella started. "Yeah." For a moment there was comfortable silence. Jiwook's hand traced lazy patterns on her shoulder, his heart still racing but settling into contentment. Then Isabella sat up abruptly, pulling the sheet around herself. "You need to leave," she said, her voice suddenly cold. Jiwook blinked, confused. "What? My room? You need to get out of my room." "Isabella." "Now, Jiwook." She wouldn't look at him. This was a mistake again, and I need you to leave so I can think. We should talk about this. There's nothing to talk about." She finally met his eyes, and her walls were back up, higher than ever. This was physical, just physical, like last time. Don't make it into something it's not. Jiwook felt like he'd been punched in the chest. Moments ago she'd been open, vulnerable in his arms. Now she was shutting him out completely. "You felt something," he said quietly. "I know you did. What I felt was good sex. That's it." She stood up, still wrapped in the sheet, and grabbed his scattered clothes, shoving them at him. "Please just go. Isabella. Boss." Her voice was firm, using his title like a weapon. "Get out of my room." Jiwook took his clothes, his jaw tight. He wanted to argue, to break through her defenses, to make her admit what they both knew was true. But he could see the panic in her eyes, the fear. So he left. As he walked out of her room, clothes in hand, he heard her door lock behind him with a decisive click. Jiwook stood alone in the hallway, feeling more frustrated and confused than he'd ever been in his life. He'd finally found a woman who could handle him physically. But emotionally, she kept running every time they got close. And this time, he didn't know if he had the patience to wait for her to come around. But even as that thought crossed his mind, he knew he was lying to himself. He'd wait as long as it took, because she was worth it. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Jiwook was working late in his office when he heard raised voices in the lobby. He recognized one of them immediately, Haewon. He walked out to find Haewon blocking Isabella's path to the elevator, looking agitated and slightly unhinged. "You can't keep avoiding me," Haewon was saying. "I'm not avoiding you. I literally didn't know you existed until 2 seconds ago when you jumped out like a Halloween decoration." Isabella tried to step around her, but Haewon moved to block her again. "We need to talk." "We really don't." "About Jiwook." "Still don't." "He's mine," Haewon said. Isabella stopped and turned slowly. "I'm sorry. What?" "Jiwook. He's mine. We have history. We have a failed relationship because you couldn't handle him." Isabella's voice was patient, like she was explaining something to a child. "Yeah, I've heard this story multiple times from you. It's getting old." Haewon's face flushed. "You don't understand what it's like, what he's like. You think you can handle him, but you can't. Nobody can. I tried. I really tried, but he's just too what? Too big? Too intense? Too much?" Isabella stepped closer. "Here's the thing, Haewon. That's a you problem, not a him problem, and definitely not a me problem. You're new. You don't know him like I do. Thank God for that. Because knowing him like you do apparently means making him feel like there's something wrong with him, like he's too much, like he should apologize for who he is." Isabella's voice was steady, but there was steel underneath. "I don't do that. I never will. So maybe that's why I can handle what you couldn't." Haewon's eyes filled with tears. "He was my first love. And he's moved on. You should too. I see the way he looks at you, like you're special, like you're different." Haewon wiped her eyes. "He never looked at me like that." For a moment, Isabella's expression softened. "Then find someone who does. Because camping out in his office building, ambushing his PA, clinging to something that's over, that's not love, that's obsession, and it's sad. She stepped around Haewon and headed for the elevator. Haewon grabbed her arm. He'll get tired of you too. Just wait. Once the novelty wears off. Isabella turned, and something in her eyes made Haewon take a step back. Let me make something very clear, Isabella said quietly. I'm not you. I'm not going to run from him. I'm not going to make him feel broken or wrong or too much. Whatever happens between us, whether it works out or falls apart, it won't be because I couldn't handle him. It'll be on our terms, not yours. So stop projecting your failures onto my future. She pulled her arm free and walked into the elevator without looking back. Haewon stood there, tears streaming down her face, finally understanding that she truly lost him. Jiwook, who'd been watching from the hallway, felt something shift in his chest. Isabella had just defended him again, not because it was her job, because she wanted to. When the elevator doors closed, he walked back to his office, pulled out his phone, and texted her, "My office, now." The response came immediately. Is this a booty call or a work thing? Despite everything, he smiled. Work. Liar. But fine. Give me 5 minutes. When Isabella walked into his office, she was still in her work clothes, a cream silk blouse and tailored navy pants that made her look both professional and devastating. You wanted to see me, boss? I heard what you said to Haewon. She shrugged. She cornered me. I handled it. You defended me. So? So you keep saying this means nothing, that it's just physical. But you keep defending me, protecting me, standing up for me. That's basic human decency, not a marriage proposal. Isabella. Look, she was being pathetic. Someone needed to tell her to move on. It happened to be me. She crossed her arms. Don't read into it. I think I will, actually. Jiwook. He crossed the distance between them in 2 strides. You care about me. As an employer. As more than that. You're delusional. Then why are your hands shaking? She looked down at her hands, which were indeed trembling slightly. Low blood sugar. Liar. Fine. Maybe I care a little, as a friend. Friends care about friends. We're not friends. Then what are we? I don't know. But I want to find out. He took her face in his hands gently. Stop running from this, please. I'm not running. I'm being smart. This is complicated and messy and… He kissed her. Soft at first, then deeper when she didn't pull away. When she kissed him back with the same desperation he felt. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard. Isabella pressed her forehead against his chest. This is a bad idea, she whispered. Probably the worst. We work together. I'll fire you. She laughed, the sound muffled against his shirt. You can't afford to lose me. I'm too good at my job. Then I'll just have to suffer the scandal of dating my employee. Dating? She pulled back to look at him. Who said anything about dating? I am. Right now. Isabella, I want to date you. Actually date you. Not this weird thing where we pretend nothing happened. Not just sex. I want dinner dates and movie nights and lazy Sunday mornings. I want all of it. That's terrifying. I know. What if I mess it up? Then we'll fix it. What if you realize I'm not worth the trouble? Impossible. She searched his face, looking for any sign that he was lying or uncertain. But all she saw was honesty, vulnerability, love. Okay, she said finally. Okay? Okay, we can try. But slowly. Like really slowly. Because I've never done this before and I will probably panic multiple times. Jiwook grinned. I can work with that. And you have to promise not to get weird when I inevitably freak out and try to sabotage this. I promise to only get moderately weird. Good enough, she smiled. So what happens now? Now I take you to dinner. It's 10 p.m. Then I take you to a late dinner. I'm not dressed for dinner. You look perfect. She looked down at her work clothes. I look like I just left the office because I did. You're beautiful. You're biased. Extremely. He grabbed his jacket. Come on. I know a place that's open late. They ended up at a pojangmacha, a street food stall, eating tteokbokki and fried chicken like regular people instead of a mafia boss and his PA. Isabella laughed more than Jiwook had ever seen her laugh. She told him stories about growing up on the streets, about the characters she'd met, the close calls she'd survived. There was this one guy, she said, wiping tears from laughing so hard. He tried to rob me. Actually tried to rob me. I had literally nothing except the clothes on my back, and he thought I was worth mugging. What did you do? I robbed him back. Took his shoes. They were too big, but I wore them anyway. Out of principle. She grinned. He chased me for 3 blocks before giving up. Jiwook shook his head. You're insane. You like it. I really do. They talked until the stall owner started cleaning up, then walked back to the penthouse slowly, neither wanting the night to end. At her bedroom door, Isabella hesitated. What's wrong? Jiwook asked. Nothing. Just, this was nice. Thank you. For what? For being patient. For not giving up on me even when I was being difficult. You're always difficult. Exactly. So thank you for putting up with it. He kissed her forehead. Good night, Isabella. Good night, boss. She started to close her door, then stopped. Jiwook? Yeah? I'm glad you walked into my bathroom that night. He smiled. Me too. The next few months were a revelation. Isabella was still herself, tough, independent, street smart, but she let Jiwook see beneath the armor. Let him see the parts of her that were soft and scared and hopeful. She told him about growing up on the streets, about learning to fight because it was the only way to survive, about the hunger, the cold, the constant fear that came with having nothing and no one. I learned early that the only person I could count on was myself, she said one night as they lay in bed. Everyone else either wanted something from me or would eventually leave, so I stopped expecting anything from anyone. What changed? Jiwook asked. You. She looked at him. You kept showing up, kept being patient, kept proving that you weren't going anywhere, and eventually I had to admit that maybe I could trust you. That must have been hard, terrifying. She smiled slightly, but worth it. They fell into a rhythm. Work during the day where they maintained professional boundaries, evenings together where they dropped the pretense and just existed as themselves. Isabella started opening up about her dreams, about wanting to do more than just survive. I've been teaching myself coding, she admitted one evening. Taking online courses late at night. I want to build something. A tech company maybe. Something that helps people who are where I used to be. That's ambitious. Too ambitious? Not at all. I think it's brilliant. Jiwook pulled her close. And I'll support you. Whatever you need. I don't want your money. I know. I'm offering my connections, my resources, my expertise. You do the work. I'll help open doors. She was quiet for a moment. Why? Because I believe in you. Because you're brilliant and capable and you deserve every success. He kissed her forehead. And because watching you build something from nothing would be incredibly sexy. She laughed. Everything's about sex with you. Not everything, just most things. Pervert. You love it. Unfortunately, yes. 6 months after that second bathroom encounter, Isabella launched her tech startup. It was small at first, just her and a couple of developers she'd met through online communities, but the concept was solid, a platform connecting street kids with resources, education, and job opportunities. Jiwook watched with pride as she threw herself into it. She was in her element, coding late into the night, pitching to investors, building something meaningful. You should quit being my PA, he said one evening. She looked up from her laptop. What? The company's taking off. You don't have time for both. And honestly, you're wasted as an assistant. You should focus on your business. Are you firing me? I'm setting you free. Isabella closed her laptop. And us? What happens to us if I'm not your employee anymore? We stop pretending it's fake and make it official. Official how? Jiwook pulled out a small box. Inside was a simple ring, elegant but not ostentatious. Perfect for her. Marry me. Isabella stared at the ring, then at him. Are you serious? Completely. We've only been together 6 months. I've known I wanted to marry you since you dumped Haiwan in a trash bin. She laughed, tears forming in her eyes. That's ridiculous. That's love. You're crazy. About you? Yes. She looked at the ring again. If I say yes, you understand that I'm still going to be difficult, right? Still going to challenge you. Still going to need space sometimes. I'm counting on it. And I'm going to put everything into this company. Late nights, crazy hours, probably neglecting you sometimes. I'll survive. And I'm never going to be the soft domestic type. I can't cook. I hate cleaning. And I'll probably always be more comfortable in jeans than dresses. Good. I fell in love with you, not some fantasy version of you. Isabella wiped her eyes. You're really sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. She took a deep breath. Then yes, I'll marry you. Ji-wook slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a kiss that was equal parts celebration and promise. I love you, she murmured against his lips. I love you too, even though I'm a mess, especially because you're a mess. My mess. She smiled. That's really cheesy. You love it. I really do. 2 years later, Isabella stood on stage at a tech conference, presenting her company's latest innovation. The platform had grown beyond anyone's expectations. Millions of users, partnerships with major corporations, international recognition. But what made her proudest wasn't the success, it was the impact. Thousands of street kids had found jobs through her platform, hundreds had gone to college, dozens had started their own businesses. She was changing lives, making a difference. When she finished her presentation, the audience erupted in applause. She walked off stage to find Ji-wook waiting in the wings, looking at her like she'd just hung the moon. You were amazing, he said, pulling her into a hug. I was nervous as hell. Couldn't tell. You commanded that stage. Years of practice pretending to be your loving fiancé, she grinned. Turns out all that acting paid off. It wasn't all acting. No, she agreed, kissing him. It wasn't. They walked out of the conference center together, hand in hand. Isabella's company was valued at over $2 billion now. She'd gone from street kid to tech mogul in less than 3 years. But that wasn't what made her happy. What made her happy was the man beside her. The one who'd seen past her walls and loved her anyway. The one who'd been patient when she was scared and supportive when she was ambitious and present through it all. Thank you, she said suddenly. For what? For not giving up on me, for waiting. For loving me even when I didn't know how to love you back. Ji-wook stopped walking and turned to face her. You gave me everything I thought I'd never have. Someone who could match me. Someone who wasn't afraid of me. Someone who chose me despite knowing exactly who and what I am. We're quite the pair, aren't we? The best pair. So what's next for us? Your company's taking off. My businesses are stable. We could travel, expand, start new ventures. He pulled her close. Or we could just enjoy being together. I like that last option. Yeah? Yeah. She looked up at him. This man who'd changed her life in ways she never could have imagined. I spent so long thinking love was a weakness, that needing someone made you vulnerable, but you taught me that vulnerability is actually strength. That letting someone in doesn't make you less, it makes you more. Look at you getting all philosophical. Shut up, I'm having a moment, he laughed. Continue. I'm just saying thank you. For everything. For seeing me. For loving me. For being patient when I was stupid and scared. You were never stupid, just careful, and you had every right to be. Maybe. But I'm done being careful now. I'm all in, with you, with us, with this life we're building. Good, because I'm not letting you go. I know. You've made that very clear. They started walking again, talking about everything and nothing, planning trips they might take, businesses they might start, dreams they might chase. And somewhere in Seoul, in a penthouse they now shared, was the bathroom where everything had started. Where a powerful man had finally found someone who could handle all of him. Where a street-smart woman had finally found someone worth letting in. They'd come a long way from that night, and they were just getting started. If you love this story of a powerful mafia boss finding his perfect match in the most unexpected woman, smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. Was it the trash bin scene, the bathroom confrontation, or when Isabella finally admitted she loved him? Let me know and subscribe because I have more cross-cultural romance stories coming that will absolutely wreck you in the best way possible. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.